I've come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset.
Stump The Guru show. We have a bit of a technical difficulty, but here we are live. Thank you for those who are listening and watching from all around the world. This show gets converted to a podcast recording, which you can listen to at in Spotify. Just search for Stump The Guru with Ari Galper, or YouTube to watch it on video there as well. So welcome. My name is Ari Galper, specializing in trust-based selling for the last 25 years. I can't believe it. It's gone by so fast, but we have been deep inside the front lines of what it's like to be able to deal with the new economy, the recession, and how to sell with trust and not to sell with selling. That's a real big mindset shift for most people. And you're here because you understand the world has shifted and you're still wedded to the old know, like, and trust model. You're going to hit a wall pretty quickly, especially as the world becomes more AI-ish and less human. What you'll learn today is that humanness is how you're going to win this game at the end of the day. And by not selling yourself, but by trust building. And trust building is an entirely different skill set altogether. It requires us humans to learn a new skill. It's not natural, especially if you've been taught to sell the old way in the past. So this show is about first of all, people jumping on live to ask me a question. If you're listening right now and want to jump in to the queue in the back of the room to be called in to the show, just go to stumptheguru.com and you'll be able to get in the queue there. If you're watching live, you'll probably at arigalper.com/live, where you can see me live on video right now. Even though recording will go to YouTube afterwards, but that's where you go to the page to jump in live or to watch live at arigalper.com/live. So, and all of those who are new to the show, if you don't know, my latest book is Trust in a Split Second. You get a copy of the trustbook.com or join our membership for free at arigalper.com/free to join our community. So look, today we're going to do a bit of a theme around what I'm experiencing on the front lines each previous month up until today. And then whoever's online will jump in and ask me a question. And Sam's always there as well for us to go back and forth to share some thoughts. But I want to talk a bit today about this idea of showing up for your first conversation with a new opportunity and how to deal with the fact that your potential prospect has expectations of you and they assume you've shown up to do one thing, and that is to make the sale. And that's where you have what we call the trust recession, where you have your buyers already assume you're there to with your own agenda to make that sale. And when they come into your meeting with you thinking that, their wall is up, their guard is up. And if you start to do certain behaviors that are what things you think you should be doing, like educating, talking about yourself, engaging into a relationship, you're going against the flow because they know those are activities and behaviors that make them suspicious that you have an agenda which is not theirs. So our whole concept, the premise, is to let go of your agenda and to remove all sales behaviors and languaging that you're used to, and instead connect with them where you're not talking, you're listening and you're engaging with them about their problem, but allowing them to share with you what's going on. In fact, I just got off a call a few minutes ago with a gentleman who works for a bathroom renovation company, and he gets leads and he goes on site to someone's home for a meeting to discuss their renovation. And his company's trained him that when he shows up at the front door after saying hello, he gives him a bit of a preamble. He says, look, here's a plan today. I'm going to take a look at your bathroom, discuss what you're looking to achieve. I'm going to show you 3 different prices, one that you can get now, one at a discount, one if you decide quickly, but there's no pressure at all, of course. And I'll share about our company, what we do, and we'll go from there. He does a whole pre-sales preamble before he even sort of has them talk about their situation. And then he's having trouble with his conversion rate. He's only getting 20% out of the 100% of our leads that are coming through every month. And he's happy with that number because he thinks it's above the average. And I told him that's below of what he should be doing. And so we started to work together, and I helped him understand that when he shows up in that home, he needs to essentially stop talking about himself, stop talking about his company. He said, no, but we've been around a long time. My company tells me I need to talk about what we do. I said, they don't care. They know what you do. You do bathroom renovation. That's why they allowed you in their home. So stop talking about yourself and allow them to talk about what's on their mind, what they're thinking about. You don't have to set the whole thing up with a preamble for a close at the end, but really have languaging that makes them feel comfortable with you, because they're not buying your company. They're buying you as a human being. And if you are in any way coming across the same as everybody else who showed up that day or the next day, offering a quote to do the job, you're a commodity. You're commoditized, and they're going to make you chase them. They're going to make you follow up with them. And I give him a few tips. I said, first of all, I want you to replace the word quote and proposal with the word plan. And he was kind of shocked. He said, what do you mean? That's what we do. We do quotes. I said, get out of the quote business and focus on customizing a plan for what they believe they would like or need. That makes you more consultative in nature. And that was the first shock. The next shock I told him was, of course, earlier, I said, stop talking about your company and start with this languaging. If you wouldn't mind, tell me a little bit about what you had in mind with your home and your bathroom. What are you thinking about? Something more utilitarian where it's just functional only? Or are you looking about having something more impressive for yourself to feel good about, having an elegant bathroom that your neighbors would be excited to see? Tell me about what you had in mind, what your vision is, and we'll go from there. And then you sort of, walk the process with them. And I walked him through how to create a roadmap and how to show them a process and how to feel comfortable with him. And the hardest part of this whole process was him not talking about himself and his company. And so he's now going through the shift, the transformation of 30 years of being trained by his company to be product-centric as opposed to being problem-centric, and to be so used to hearing his own voice that he felt that's what his whole process was based on, was him controlling the process. And it turns out the truth was that the other person, the homeowner, was not feeling comfortable with him. And I explained to him that they're hiring him, not his company, and they're going to decide on him based on how they feel about his approach, not on what the spec is that he'll do for them. So that was a real shift, and he's excited to learn more. And I want to share that story for everybody to understand that if you're coming into a first meeting with someone with this preset process with them that you've been doing for years, taught by your company or taught by your previous sales managers or sales gurus or whatever, then you are stuck in a loop that's been going on for years that your prospects and customers can read from you a mile away, okay? And they're going to shut down. Now, they'll be nice to you. They'll play the game with you, but they will not trust you. And you'll be stuck at the end of the call or meeting with, I want to think about it. Call me next week. Send me a proposal. And you'll struggle. And you'll play the numbers game, and your conversion rate will remain the same or plateau over time. And you'll either leave your company or if you own your own business, try and buy more leads and solve it that way. You'll be stuck in this loop. And this is a loop that we have cracked the code on that no one in the world has solved before in our way, based upon trust. So I wanted to kind of give that preamble today to everyone to kind of get a sense of how we view the world around where the sales process is going, and why with AI becoming more prolific, you have to become more human. And if you're trying to be a hybrid between the two, you're going to be in trouble real quick, because the reality is humans will buy from humans they can trust, not by humans who try to educate them and impress them with what they know. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll open the show up here and see who we have back there, and for questions. And if not, of course, Sam's there for us to banter back and forth, and from that, a lot of folks listen and hear the insights from that. So, Steve, how are we doing back there?
Sure. All righty. I'm going to bring Sam on the start. So we'll go there. I looked at a couple of people with tech issues, but the rest is the live stream is amazing. For everybody that's hearing this, you can go to arigalper.com/live And we're now hosting it through YouTube, so it's stellar. And I can see more people in there than we've ever had, which is awesome. So thank you for everybody that's here today. And let me bring Sam on right now. Here we go.
Thanks,
What's
Steve.
up, buddy? How we been?
Hey, how you doing? Hey, Ari.
Hey, Sam, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Good. Yeah, look, I love what you just said there. Look, that just encapsulated the whole process. And look, I'd encourage anybody, if you're listening to that, if you just heard what Ari said and you thought to yourself, that makes sense, then my question would be, when would be a good time to change? Right? Because, you know, the reality of it is that sometimes we hear these things, but we don't apply it. And if we don't apply it, as you said, Ari, we're stuck in that loop for a very long time. And what's the default solution? Well, let's just get more leads, right? And that's what people usually work towards. I think that's the answer. I'll just get more leads. It's not me, it's that prospect. They're crappy leads or whatever it might be. I'll just get more of them. And that's just a formula for a lot of work and not getting a lot of gain. And I like also what you said about the minute you walk in the door, they're judging you. And that's the reality. And they're judging you on your approach. And this is a feeling business and what they sense. And if they feel that you're trying to sell them something, you have an agenda, which clearly you sort of do when you start with the whole preamble, let me tell you how this is going to work, they feel like they're in a frame, they're in a setup. Okay, that's not very natural. Natural conversations don't start like that. So they're saying to themselves, you know, is he going to try and sell me something? And the other thing they're thinking is, do I trust him or her, right? Now, not say they're not trustworthy, but they're saying, does this person have an agenda? Are they looking at my best interest? Do I trust them that they will do the work? You know, that's
Sam, it's funny about that. I was talking to a consultant yesterday, and I asked him, how do you start your first conversations when you meet someone new, a new lead? And he basically does the whole fit thing. Well, you know, the purpose of today is to really get to know each other a bit better, let me understand you better, and to see if we're a fit. And if we're a fit, then we decided where to go from there. Now, that sounds reasonable, like in 1990, right? When everyone was doing is a new thing. But when you do that now, it's like a setup. It's a typical sales setup. And, you know, when I go see a doctor, he doesn't say to me, Ari, let's see if we're a fit before we work together, right? He doesn't do that. It's like, it doesn't make sense. He starts with, tell me about where it hurts, right? And the deep dive begins from there. So, and you also touched on something interesting there. You said that if this makes sense to you, then why are you hesitating to make the change? And I think human beings naturally don't want to change.
Yeah.
They're more comfortable staying in their zone of comfort. They'd rather actually lose sales, lose opportunities, still keep doing what they're doing, and look at some other external factor as to what the problem is. Oh, the leads are bad. Oh, I can't get a hold of my, no one answers phones anymore. I tried LinkedIn. Well, it turns out the channels aren't the problem. You're the problem. Your approach itself sends signals that you're up to something for your own gain. You're not there to solve a problem they may or may not have. And that is a subtle difference. Now, you might say to yourself, well, I'm not pushy. I'm not a salesperson. I'm very friendly. I'm here it is, my favorite. I'm relationship-based, oriented. I build relationships with people. I'm not a salesperson, Ari. And I say, well, when I go to a doctor, they don't try and build a relationship with me at all. Now, through bedside manner and empathy, we do connect, but they stay problem-focused. And so to make this shift, if you're listening, watching live right now or on the podcast, you have to commit to learning a new skill. I'm sorry, there's no shortcut. You have to learn how to detox from all the old voices and behaviors from your old sales manager from years ago, your industry conference you went to last week who said you need to be better at closing. You need to close all that noise and start fresh on a new path, and to learn how to stay present, learn how to listen, and learn how to not interject questions when there's empty silence to move people forward, which is a natural reaction. So I just kind of wanted to mention those key checkpoints, because once you come through the loop on this thing, as we all know, and our clients know for 25 years now, they never go back anymore because they now realize what they were doing was the actual problem itself causing the losses there, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also, change comes from the fact that you realize how many opportunities you're losing, right? I mean, these are big ticket items, 8 out of 10 that you've lost. I mean, a lot of people judge themselves on the ones that they win and think, yeah, whoo, fantastic. Yeah, but what about how much you're losing? Like, that's a lot of money to leave on the table. And if you were to just change your approach and somehow even get half of the ones you're losing, look, sometimes you can even double your business just from conversion alone. You don't need
You
more
know,
leads then.
you know what I hear a lot of? I hear people say, well, Ari, most of my leads are unqualified. So that's why I'm not converting as high as I'd like to. And I say to them, look, of course, most lead flow will have 10, 20% that might be, homeless people or unqualified. But, how about the other chunk of 40% you're losing anyways who were qualified? What about those people, right? So you're right, is that most businesses and business owners or sales executives, they are measured and they focus on a dashboard that focuses on how much they're making from last quarter, how much they made for this quarter. And they think if we increase from first to last quarter, hey, we're doing great. What they don't look at is the number over here that is kind of a gray and black and fuzzy that shows them how much they've lost every quarter by the conversions they're not doing right. And that's where they usually bury because they don't really know how to deal with that part. So they just simply say, well, if we budget out another 50K a month and get more leads coming in, we'll keep that number, keep going up higher. So you're getting a higher cost of lead. Your numbers keep going up. Everyone's happy. But no one's looking down the left-hand corner and going, well, what about the 50 people in the CRM right now who want to think about it, have proposals, haven't called us back? Well, I guess, geez, that's just the way it goes. We just play the numbers game and get more numbers in. That is the state of the mental space for the most people in selling are in right now in terms of how they believe it should run. And that is false because they're not focusing on why they're losing. They're focused on, and that's not about the deal, it's about the process as opposed to the win. And that's what we're trying to help people highlight, to recognize they can, like you said, you can literally double the revenue in your company that a penny more spent by just simply doubling your conversion rate right now. And that's what we have unique processes for. And we're proud of that, especially the one call sale, and everything else that we do, because we are the only ones in the world that figure this out, how to grow the conversion rate by not pushing harder with no more techniques, with a mindset shift in the approach. And that's something we stand strong on, Sam.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, what you said was really important, is the fact that, the prospect won't outright say to you, look, I don't like you, I don't trust you, all those things. They will be nice about it. I mean, we're human beings. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And we'll say, yep, sounds great. Thank you so much. I like that information. Let me process that. Let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And then, that's it. And then that forces you to then think, wow, this is a good opportunity. Okay, I've got to get back to it. They're actually thinking about it and I'm going to call them. And then that puts you into the chasing game. You call them or something happens, they don't answer. And then it all starts from there. It goes downhill, slippery slope,
Well, that's the hopium drug, right? Where you kind of hope
yeah. And you say, well, they said they were interested. They said they wanted to think about it, and then we all think that people are good people on their word, and they are, right? They just didn't want to say to you outright that, look, you're like everybody else I spoke to this week, right? And the thing that I'm seeing, people think, and this is a very important distinction, people think that trust is developed by showing their company's brilliance, how long they've been around for, their client lists, their testimonials. I got more Google reviews than you, you can trust me. But that's not the case, because everybody's got some kind of credentials, credibility, history. It's no longer a differentiation. It's a commoditized approach. And I love the fact that your doctor-patient mentality relationship always works best. You don't go to a doctor, the doctor doesn't say, oh, let me tell you where I went to school. Let me tell you my degrees. look at these ones on my wall. Look at all these customers, and these are all my reviews. And we've been doing this for 10 years. They don't start with that, right? That's
Right.
It's not
See,
natural.
Because most people in sales or selling have always thought that the premise of a decision is based upon their credentials, based upon their resume. And what they don't understand is now in a commoditized market that we're in, it's based not upon your resume or why you think you're better. It's based upon how they feel about the way you approach them, the words that you use, how you make them feel. This is like EQ, right? This is like high level EQ. You have to learn how to engage with people in a way where you don't have to flex anymore or pitch yourself anymore, because the ones who come across most authentic and don't try and become their best friend at hello, but know how to have the right languaging to go down the iceberg, as we say, and then show them a path to solve their problem without an agenda, are the ones who will continue to rise above all the noise out there. We're seeing it all the time. I mean, you're with a group of students each week. We're experiencing this. I'm on the front lines every day talking to new opportunities coming our way. We're helping them see this shift. And I think what we're trying to do, Sam, here on this show and everything else that we do in our books is help people make that shift. And I think that's what we're trying to do. So let's just pause here for a second. Let's check back with Steve and see if anyone else, Steve, is back there.
Yeah, absolutely, Sam. I'm going to boot you, my friend.
That's okay.
Out. And let's see. Let me scroll down here. David has just come in. I'm going to bring David on. He's got a great question for you, Ari. Hey, David, how are you? If you can let everybody know that's listening who you are, what your business is all about, and then your question for Ari, please.
Thank you, Steve. Hi, Ari. Great to see you.
Hey, David. How's it going? Good to see you.
It's going well. And so I am in the process of launching a fractional chief investment officer service. And the question I have for you is, Ari, I'd like to get your insights on how to effectively work with prospects who seem to be trying to score some free consulting during prospect meetings.
So tell me a bit about that. So you have somebody who I guess shows up for an initial, is it via Zoom, like kind of like this?
Yeah.
An initial meeting, and obviously assume they're looking for what you have to say. So tell me a little bit about how you begin your meeting so I can sort of see the flow. What do you say when they show up?
Yeah. And so, well, I welcome them to the meeting. I ask them about, what their greatest needs are in terms of how I can potentially help them and things like that. And it's a somewhat special situation with this prospect. The specific, I don't think there's a need to go deep into the weeds of it during this meeting right now, but it's a little bit sort of off the grid from what I normally do. At any rate, he asked me some, I think, good questions, but then he also kind of sometimes slipped in some questions that basically necessitate responses that are equivalent to that of free consulting.
Okay. Freeze right there. Freeze right there, David. Okay. So ideally, if this process is done correctly, you should be the one asking the questions, not him asking you the questions. Okay. When he's asking you the questions, that means that somehow he's out of your structure and he's kind of loose in his mind, trying to figure things out and extract from you information to figure out if he can trust you or not. Okay, that's what's going on there. So what you need to do, David, is follow a structure where you're the one asking him the questions. And by doing that, he's unraveling the level and depths of his situation and his problem, to the extent where he helps you see what the impact to his issues are, what I call cost of inaction. And then at some point, he shared with you the entire 360 view of his world, and you now understand it in full view. So there's no questions to you at this stage. You're trying to just unpack his situation, what I call below the iceberg. If you do that in a structured way with him, then the last question you'd ask him is this a priority for you to finally have someone come in and get a handle on this to relieve you of having to do it yourself, whatever the problem is, right?
Yeah.
And if he says to you, yes, it is, then what you do, David, is you walk him through a roadmap process, a visual way of what your process is to engage with you. This avoids, see, here's the thing, this avoids the questions because well, the reality is all he wants to do in the back of his mind is tell you the truth of his problem, like going to a doctor. He doesn't want to have to ask you questions because he doesn't want to have to pick from you what he needs. He wants you to guide the process. So I think what's happened here is he's got less structured on the meeting with you, and somehow it's gone off into the forest, off the ski trail, because the structure you had with him may not be as tight enough as possible. What do you think? Is that possible?
I think that might play a role, and I think I know I'll definitely take your advice on having a set of questions to ask him during the meeting. So I'm going to be having my third prospect meeting with him in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And so the question I have for you, Ari, is how do you feel about this as a way of starting that meeting by me simply asking him? I'm just going to call him Bob. His name is not Bob. I'm just going to call him Bob.
Yes.
Bob, do you think that the goal for today's meeting will be for us to be able to make a decision at the end of today's meeting as to whether or not you want to move forward with using me as your consultant? Something like
that. Have you showed him yet a visual process map of how you work with clients to engage with them?
No, I have not.
That's what's missing, David. That's why you have multiple meetings with him. He's trying to figure this. You're trying to figure out together how to work together. See, what's missing here is a lack of structure somewhere in your process, because he needs to see visually a tangible process that shows him each phase of what he has to go through to engage with you. So phase one might be a discovery phase. I'm making this up. Phase two might be analyze all your finances. Phase three might be put a plan together to build a dashboard. I don't know what your process is, but I think what's missing is a structured way to show him how you work with a client.
Right.
And get him to buy into that first. Say, may I walk you through, Bob, my process for how I'd go about helping you solve your problem. He's like, okay, yeah, how do you do that? Out comes the process. There's 4 phases. Phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. And you're going to say to him, what are your thoughts on the roadmap process?
Yeah.
Now, if it makes sense, he's going to say to you, makes sense. See, without the structure, it becomes very loose and he can't make a decision. So you let the structure lead you to the decision, whether it's a yes or no at the end. So can you work on some homework for you, David, to work on a visual process map that shows how you engage with the client?
Well, and I actually have one for my regular prospects and clients who utilize me for my fractional chief investment officer service. The thing is that what he's looking for is something that is much more specialized. I mean, basically what he's doing is he is looking into launching a investment fund that specializes in a particular region of the world that I have deep expertise in.
Sure.
And he wants to leverage me for my connection. So he knows he has very little pre-existing knowledge of the business environment within this particular region. And
I see.
A very
so he wants
large investor is interested in seeding this fund, and the office that represents that investor wants to do deep dive due diligence into the viability of launching a private fund that specializes in investments in that specific region. So this person who I've been talking with, the prospect, he has very little pre-existing knowledge of this region.
I get it.
Business climate, it's business culture, things like that. And so he wants to essentially use me as a connector to facilitate conversation.
Right. You're like the ambassador who basically is the bridge. I get that. I totally do. But even more of a reason why for him this is a black hole. He doesn't understand any of where you step in. He still needs a structured process, David, that shows him what you're going to do to help him reach his goal. So you have to customize a map for him in this environment to show him each phase of what you're going to do in that role to achieve his goal. Without that structure, it'll be too confusing for him to make a decision.
Right.
So you still need structure here, David. We're going to say goodbye for now. We're about at the top of the hour, but I'm so glad you came in. Great scenario. Add that piece of the puzzle and see what happens after that, okay?
Thank you so much, Ari.
Good to see you again. Take care. We're at the top of the show here, the Stump The Guru. And again, very fascinating scenario here, as you heard from David, who just came in. And hopefully you're all picking up on what I'm trying to say here is that in a complex scenario like that, a buyer needs a tangible, simple structure to make a decision. Because complexity equals mistrust and simplicity equals trust. If you can't simplify the process that you're going to use to solve a problem for a customer, they will create more meetings with you, more conversations, and it'll get so messy at the end that they'll drop off. So hopefully you got some good tips from today and from Sam and I going back and forth. And again, if you're new to our world, please get my latest book at thetrustbook.com or join our community for free at arigalper.com/free. Get engaged with our community and begin to learn how to shift your mindset to a trust-based mindset to catch up with where the world's going. So on that note, we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.
I've come up with a way to totally eradicate this whole idea of rejection in sales. If it's over at hello, how the heck are you going to succeed in selling? You've got to rise above that and change your mindset.